if you've been following this channel, then you'll know that yesterday we did something in Placid where we were generating social media hooks, so social media hook images to promote the workflows that we were building. Today we're going to do something similar. It's basically just as the same application, just in a different way. We're generating thumbnails. I'm going to show you right now. This is the template that we're using. So as long as the page loads, okay, perfect. So this is the template that we're using. It's very simple, and the idea is to have the ability to not only change this face image, right, to just be expressing sort of like different emotions every single time, but to also be able to change these big bold titles, these less bold titles, and the image in the background, which is effectively like the focal point of whatever I'm trying to promote. And then these images are also going to be very important, like, because the one thing that really works is when people sort of can see what is they know what to expect from a video. So these logos are very important because people will know that, oh, this has something to do with n8n, with Airtable and Placid. I'm not gonna lie to you, I literally just took an hour to like create this whole thing because I already created something similar. And that's just the power of like automation. You can build off of what you have like every single time and create something new. I'm gonna do this again just to show you how it works, but this is basically just a sample of like what I just built. So screenshot to thumbnail magic, you know, automate stunning thumbnails in minutes. Very simple, very easy. Let's do it again just for you. So I'm gonna come into the forms here, and I'm gonna go and say done here. And then it's gonna show me the form, and the description or the prompt, I guess it's going to be you know, a workflow that helps me generate scroll stopping sort of thumbnails for YouTube videos that help me increase CTR and boost viewership. Yeah, this is good. Here it wants us to drop an image, so I guess we'll just take a screenshot real quick. You might notice, like, if you watched the previous video, then you'll notice that this is a similar thing that we did yesterday, but the workflow looks totally different in a way, which kind of shows, because like we added certain things that was just to help the workflow sort of work better than before, and I'll explain all of them like as soon as we get through to that point. But just for now, let's just upload these screenshots. Should be in the pictures, screenshots, and it's the latest one, so we're gonna have to scroll all the way down after it loads. Okay, perfect. So it comes in, we upload the file, and here is probably the most magical part. We tell it the image type, so we're gonna say it's a thumbnail image. Yesterday we were doing a screenshot image, and what it was doing was creating these image hooks that we could use to like post on Instagram or whatever. But now we're doing thumbnail image, which is very similar, but it's also somewhat different. I want to show you something that I built into this, just to show you what's different about it. So here, when it's going to come into the data in the Airtable, it would show you like that there's a new created record. And something to understand here is that what we want to do is we want to not only put in this new image, we also want to reference an older image that is in the people table. So something we could do here is say come into this associated person, and we're linking to people here, so we want to not allow linking to multiple records because it's just one person, and that person is us. It's unfortunate, but it seems like we can't have a default for this, so we're just gonna have to like choose our own record, which is fine because we already exist. But once we choose this, it literally brings in the the lookup field for a thumbnail picture that is in the people table, and this is very useful for us. Also, this is another sort of it's another formula field that we added since yesterday, and what it does is it basically just computes which template UUID we're going to use based on this field, the image type that we're dealing with. So since the image type is thumbnail image, it's going to bring us this one. But yesterday we were dealing with the screenshot image, which was generating images like these, which were just hooks for Instagram. Like, as you can tell, it's the square 1200 by 1200, and it's perfect for like creating some engaging post that someone would look at and then like and then share or something. So this was perfect for that, and it would bring in this one. You might be wondering what's all this. I'll explain it in the future. It's an unfinished project, but something you also have to understand is that the status here is to create, and it's very useful for us to like be able to automate the workflow in a proper manner, and you'll understand soon enough how it's going to work. I'll just run it for now, just for you to see what's going to happen. So I was running through. This is pretty interesting though. I feel like it might have done something a bit interesting. And look at this, scroll stopping. Well, it kind of flopped. It said stop scrolling thumbnails, boost clicks and grow your audience, which is like is very bad. We don't want this one, so we'll just delete it and we'll have it try again. Maybe the context was wrong, but let's change the context just a bit, Okay. I will set this as to create once more, and then I'll just have it run through again, just to see something. So it tries again, generates new content, comes in, prepares the payload, goes through, and then it runs through the trying to check the status for Placid image generation, and then it comes out on the other side and it puts the image back in the Airtable. There should be 3 images now. Let's check the third image, how it looks. Create irresistible thumbnails, boost CTR and skyrocket your views. This is much better. Now, you probably understand like how crazy this kind of is. I was able to generate 2 thumbnails in 2 minutes. That's a pretty good return on investment for having spent 1 hour putting this together. If you think about the amount of time it would take, not the amount of time, but the amount of effort it would take for me to hire maybe a thumbnail editor or someone like that, probably way too much. The fact that I could build something like this so simply, like so easily, is indicative of just the power of automation. Let me run through this just so that you understand what's actually going on. So this first one is a manual, just a testing workflow node, so we don't have to go through it. What we need to start is with this one, the first node, which is effectively getting the thumbnail image, right? The latest image that has the thumbnail image sort of for the image type, and it gets that information from Airtable. Everything, the most important parts of this are the ID, the image description, and this, which is effectively image 0, which is so it's the it's the placeholder for where the image is stored. So the first image that we're putting into the array of images for the attachments field, which is image. So if you look at this, you'll understand how it works. We're limiting the number of images, we're limiting the number of image records that it's bringing us to us to 1 instead of anything beyond that, because we just want to work with 1. We want to work with the latest one, and you can tell that it's the latest one because we're using the field called created, which is only going to bring us the direction in the descending order. So it's going to bring the one that was created the latest, effectively. So the next node is the if node. What we're doing here is checking if the status is to create, and this is very important because we effectively have 3 phases. So this first phase is the creation of the text, so it's the creation of the text that goes on the image. The second phase is the creation of the image itself, and every time that those things happen, the status gets updated. So it's when it comes in, it's to create. When it gets updated, it's to use, and then when it gets put in the Airtable again, it's done. Which, like as you can tell over here, it's used. So yeah, this allows us to like track the status and use the status effectively to monitor just what should be done at any stage, because sometimes, like as you saw, it could error, like so it's very useful to just bring it in and to not have it generate new text content every time, or to not have it generate new types of content every time. So here it comes in, right? And this is the part where the magic happens. So I'll run through the prompts just simply and easily. You are a creative, persuasive, context-aware AI assistant that specializes in generating titles and subtitles for YouTube thumbnails. Your goal is to produce a highly engaging combination of bold title and concise subtitle that effectively promotes the content described. And it's just a few guidelines, and then the output structure that we want, which is in JSON. And we didn't just tell it to output that in JSON, we also specified the output content is JSON here. So we click this as true. So let's come here to the assistant prompt, and it's effectively just a simple I understand that your goal is to create a thumbnail that captures the attention. So the assistant prompt is effectively how it's going to think, how it's going to assist itself in coming up with solutions. We gave it that, and then we gave it some sort of like a possible output that it could come up with at any point in time. And then this is the user prompt, which is the part where we give it the task that it's supposed to accomplish. Your task is to generate a bold 2 to 5 word title that immediately grabs attention and highlights the key message or the hook of the video, and to write a 3 to 10 word subtitle that clearly conveys the unique value or appeal of the video to entice viewers to click. This is pretty standard. Again, it's almost the same thing. We specified this kind of output format 3 times just to make sure that it understands, because sometimes it has a tendency to hallucinate. So I always feel like just telling it to do something multiple times just to drive it in is more important than just sort of like saying it once and just hoping for the best. So here's something else that's really important, is the rules. The rules are different from the guidelines. The guidelines might like help it come up with solutions, but the rules are like actually they tell it exactly how to go about coming up with whatever it comes up with. So it's like, please ensure the title is sharp and concise. The title or initial phrases should immediately draw attention. Things like that. If the specific format like JSON is required, ensure the output adheres strictly to that format. This is also important because we not only specified it again, we again told it to pay attention to that specification. So yeah. And it gave us, create irresistible thumbnails, boost CTR, and skyrocket your views. Very basic, I would say, but still very effective, because like you don't have to think about the amount of time it would take for you to put all of this together, say on a platform like Canva. I know for me personally it would take at least 20 minutes, and that's just because I have a bit of practice with Canva. But that took 2 minutes, so actually it took less time. It took like a few seconds. So just think about the amount of time, the amount of thumbnails you could create, not only for yourself but for other people too. So this is the it updates the Airtable, sort of the record with the title and the subtitle. So we're getting that same ID that we got in that first Airtable node, and we are updating the record with the title, and the hook effectively. And we're also sort of updating this, which is very useful for keeping track of what is effective, what is automated, what is human created, what is sourced from online, what is so on and so forth. And the status here is changed. Like as I said, the status keeps changing just so that we could be able to have a more streamlined workflow that does everything it needs to do when it needs to do it. So it doesn't have to generate text when the text already exists. It doesn't have to do things twice. It just does things once and just moves on. So here is another useful node. It effectively just gets the record ID. It gets the record using that ID again, and it acts as this placeholder, because since we split, since we have two different sort of lines of execution, it helps the rest of the workflow have a new point of record, a new point of reference for where to get the data from. And it's very useful because we're going to be looking at this and nothing more than this for the rest of the workflow. So this edit fields node is effectively just a placeholder for just a variable called image URLs, which is an array. This array is very useful when we're doing things here in the code node later on, but I tend to not use it, so it is what it is. You can just create a new array in a code node and it'll probably work. This is another magical piece of the pie. Here what we're doing is we're effectively getting the records, the most useful pieces of information from the Airtable record, and we are putting them in a payload that the Placid API is going to understand. So something you have to understand about Placid is that if you want to update this with the right information, you have to look at these names. And I set these names as definite, so n8n logo, Airtable logo, Placid logo, because I was not going to change them. But for this subtitle, title, face image, background image, they're going to change, and that's why they're sort of general. They're generalized, and these are also the ones that you'll see in here. Background image, face image, title, subtitle, and UUID, which is ironically the same UID that I was telling you about, the one that manually updates itself based on the formula that we provided, which is the formula that is based on this image type that we're giving in. So yeah, we take in all of that information, the title, which is stored in the image title, the subtitle, which is stored in the image hook, the image URL, which is stored in the image array, which holds all the information about what the image is and how it works. The image, the name, the file type, the dimensions, all of that. Airtable stores all that information. The UUID, which I just mentioned, and the face pic, which I also just mentioned, and I mentioned at the start as well, which is effectively a reference to another table we have, which is storing user information. So this is me, I exist in this people table, and I'm putting it in here so that I can drag in this thumbnail picture, which is in that table. All of that information gets put in, and then it gets sent over as a payload, which is effectively just an object. So yeah, we send in this object, which is a JSON, application JSON, a raw object, into this body, and then we have it go to the API for the image generation. So it's api.placid.app/api/res/images, and yeah, I'm not gonna go through how to set this up. I feel like you can just set this up very easily. Placid makes it very simple to get an API key. You can just sign up, get your API key, put it in here. It's simple header auth, and the documentation is there, so it's very easy. But yeah, the content type is also application JSON as well. So yeah, after that, it's going to give you this status. So the status is very important for you to understand what's going on. And you'll soon understand that the status is also useful for tracking the execution of your workflow. So what these three nodes are effectively doing is, for one thing, we're waiting 5 seconds because we understand that image generation is going to take a while. So we wait 5 seconds and then we query the Placid API, right? We're like, hey, are you done generating the image? And then it's going to give us a status here. So the status could be a number of things, right? It could be waiting, or I think it could be like finished. This is finished now, but there's actually a different run. Let's check the first run. The first run is queued. There's also another status that is error, and then there's a third status that is finished. So queued means it's about to go, because like there's probably other images being generated at any point in time. And then here it finishes, and when it finishes, it gives us this S3, which is effectively the container that was like the image was put in. And this is like, if you take this URL and then you put it up there, you can download the image very easily, and this is very useful for like putting the image into Airtable. So yeah, but so you understand how it works. We wait a few seconds and then we query the API. We're like, are you done with the images? And then if it's no, which would mean that it's anything but finished. If the status is finished, we want to continue, but if it's not finished, then we want you to loop around. But you might see this and you understand, wait, aren't we looping around? Because like if it's not finished, then we just want to wait again. No, we want to check for a different status. We want to check if it errored. If the status is an error, then it's going, then we wanted to stop because there was clearly a problem with our payload. And that is something that I discovered today, right? Because I was trying to set up the payload so that it put in the correct face pick, but I wasn't referencing the face pick correctly. I wasn't referencing the URL correctly. So it was throwing an error, and it would just loop through again and again and again. And I would wait, and I was like, oh, okay, no, there's clearly something wrong here. There's something wrong with my payload. So I debugged that in a few minutes, and boom, bada bing, it's done now. So it's able to go through all of this. We're checking for finished, and we're also checking for status, for the status of error. If it errors, we stop an error and then we check the payload, and everything should work perfectly after that. But yeah, since it finished, the next thing it has to do is it has to put the image URL into a way that Airtable understands, and also while bringing in all the other information that Airtable was storing previously for the images, right? Because understand, if you're doing anything in Airtable, right, if you have an attachments field is effectively just an array of objects, right? You want Airtable to understand not only so that URL, you're putting it inside an object, right? And then you're putting that object inside this array of objects, which is the attachments field. That's what you're doing. So when you're putting that in, normally what happens when you're updating a field in Airtable is that you just clear out the whole field. But what you need to do, right, to just not have this field cleared out, because if you clear out this whole field, you'll also be clearing out this initial screenshot that you use, and the initial screenshot is actually the base for everything else. Like you can't generate thumbnails without that initial screenshot, because as you'll see here in the payload, I can go back, we're referencing the initial image, we're referencing image 0, right, which is the first index of the array. Index, that was the word I was looking for. But yeah, we're referencing these first index, so we want to save all those indexes, the index 0 or any other index in the array of objects of images. So to do that, we have to bring it in, and then we have to update that image array with this new image object. So we create the new image object, we take in the old image objects, and then we merge them, and then we send them back. And then we update Airtable with that new array of image objects, which is exactly what's happening here. It's very cool. Like I love this. It's so cool, man. I genuinely love this. Okay, yeah, that was basically how it works. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments, and if you want to build something like this, then just hit me up, and I would totally love to get involved. Thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow probably.